So this episode of Pixelated is brought to you by Yabba, who is actually going to give away a Pixel 9 and their brand new T2 projector to one lucky listener or reader to celebrate the launch of their latest projector models, which were unveiled at CES. I've been spending some time with the T2 series, which are great little portable projectors. The K300S is one of their other flagship models. This is an ultra short throw laser projector. It gives you the option of a massive 100-inch display from just 9 inches away. Yeah, definitely go check out their actual link down in the description below. And thanks again to Yabba for sponsoring Pixelated. So, Abner, we have some brand new products to talk about today, which, hey, it's the start of the year. We're going to have releases. S25 series has just been unveiled. And how do you feel about S25 in general? And a little bit about some of the AI features that they seem to be throwing down our throat.
So I guess I have to start with the hardware since you've had some hands-on time with them. To me, just looking at pictures, they seem remarkably straightforward and dare say pretty average. Do they feel any different in hand?
S25 series, let me refresh my brain. They are, the politest way I can describe it is Samsung has reached a point now where you know what you're getting with a Samsung product. They have mastered the art of making a good phone, a good Android phone. I think the S25 series in general, I don't think you're going to see anything new. If you've seen the S24 series, it almost feels like the exact same phone. The internals are practically the same on the S25 and S25 Plus. I think the S25 Ultra is, of course, it's the one that everyone's going to be paying attention to. And I do like the design changes. I think it's nip and tuck. It's tiny little things here and there. I really like the fact that they've just keep shrinking the bezels on that device. There's a lot of similarities with the Pixel 9 Pro XL, I would say, in that they probably hit a form factor a few years ago, and it's pretty widely been criticized because they've not made changes. But I think if you settle into a design that works, Apple have shown that you can do that, and buyers don't necessarily, dare I say it, care as much. And the S25 Ultra feels like that, but it's a fantastically made device. It feels really good in the hand. I think. For me, I always feel with an S series that if you've come from, say, let me use the Note 20, for example, something like that, which is quite an old phone at this point in time. If you're going to upgrade to the S25 series, you're going to be very happy. But those of us who are like kind of deep in the mud of Android and upgrades and this yearly upgrade cycle, nobody really does that apart from the people who've got money to burn. And I think if you go in year over year, you're not going to see much improvement. But if you come from an older device, I think you're getting a lot of value. $1,000 is a lot of money to pay. And again, I don't think people do that still. I think people get cell plans. But yeah, I'll give you a really, really crappy roundabout explanation of what I think of the S25 series.
No,
they feel nice. They feel nice. The colours look great. I wish I had more time to spend with every single intricacy because I really like what Samsung's done with One UI this year. I think it's been a really good update in terms of like fixing a lot of problems that hardcore fans have complained about. Do I think I'll switch from a Pixel? Probably not. But it will be a close second. I think it would be a close second, which is something I haven't been able to say about a Samsung phone for a while.
Yeah, I'm excited to get One UI 7. But yeah, so that's the hardware. I guess the takeaway is it looks the same, but that doesn't take away from its quality, from its build quality, from its design.
No, that's probably a good way to describe it. I think I'm kind of almost it's conflicting. It's conflicting in my mind about how I feel about Samsung's upgrades over the last few years. And I know that some people will level that Samsung complaint at them. But I think that in some respects is a little bit unfair because it isn't for us every year. We're not the kind of people that upgrade every year, and we overlook certain things. I think it's a bit disappointing that they've made some changes, like to the way the S Pen works. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's again something that makes sense for their demographics. They have the information. kind of have to trust their decision on removing certain features. But yeah, I think the big thing this year is what we're going to go on to is the software. I think the software is where Samsung's made the biggest changes and where I think that people are going to notice the most upgrades, if that makes sense.
So this One UI 7, as you were alluding to, it's coming from an existing, let's say, more average user of this stuff day to day. What's the biggest takeaway there? What do they feel that's different? What do they like? What might they dislike?
And I'm going to give you a terrible answer here. I'm sorry. I think polish. I think the biggest thing is polish, and I think that's something that Android 15 has forced a lot of OEMs to do. I really just like, it just feels way more cohesive and smooth, and things are starting to make a bit more sense. I think Samsung were probably a bit better than some of the Chinese OEMs. Obviously, I know that they have a very different design approach to what Samsung does in there. I've been told it's very Korean the way they do things, but I can't speak for that. I think that the way that they've kind of gone into One UI and said, okay, the animations need to be fixed. We're going to start utilizing the lock screen a bit more. I think that they're, and forgive me, the name escaped me right now. The little like live action thing that they have. Nowbar, yes, great.
Yeah.
I think that's quite a good name, actually. I'm surprised I'm saying that out loud. I think it's a good name. I think that kind of thing is where we've been crying out for more, almost like our applications to kind of supersede the locked state and having to use them as an app.
That. Yeah, and I haven't used it yet, but I guess my curiosity, is there's so much space. Why is it just a tiny strip? Why is that just a tiny pill? I know you can expand it, obviously, but from what I'm aware, from what I can see, you can only show one at a time. That I need to play around with that, how that the UX works, but that's a bit weird to me.
Yeah, I never even thought of that until you pointed it out, to be honest. I like that, and I hope that that's something that develops over time. And I know that during the keynote, they mentioned they're going to use certain functions within Galaxy AI to almost power the now bar with more up-to-date information. So I don't know what that's going to do to potentially. I know one of the examples during the keynotes was like live sports scores. I don't know how that's very. That's a good idea. It's a really good idea.
Navigation.
But what does that do to the application? Like it escapes me because we've had so much information thrown in our face about it. Are they pulling this from applications? Are they pulling this from the web? Are they pulling this from...
It's fancy notifications, let's call it. It's Google Search in the case of sports, which Google Search is a pretty good sports
I think it's pretty good, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good.
The live, like what's happening actively. It's the iOS equivalent is live activities, and I do think Android needs that. But again, I'm curious to see how the UI, how the UX really feels in action. So yeah, that's the now bar. I guess this is the Gemini section of this keynote. Well, of the keynote and podcast, rather. Google had a big presence. They brought on execs throughout, actually, right from the start. And yeah, so let's start features. So what's available right now for everybody, actually, is how with one prompt, you can activate multiple extensions. So if you ask for information in Google Maps and you then want it texted to a friend in messages, that can do that now. It can, or you search something like recipes and you want it saved into your notes app. That's multi-extension prompts, and that's live right now. It's pretty straightforward. It's Android, iOS, web. Everybody has it. So that's nice that they were able to roll out something immediately. I guess on the Samsung front, there are more Gemini extensions for, Notes, Reminder, Calendar, and Clock. I know Samsung Notes is pretty popular. It's pretty advanced. You can do a lot, at least compared to Keep. So those are nice things. And you can use Gemini you can launch Gemini using the side button, which is...
Do you think you would use that? Do you think you would... Because I'm torn on that. I think it may and I'm going to say this out loud again. This is sometimes I should keep my thoughts to myself. Should they bring back the Bixby button or reinvent the Bixby button? Because I know that this time around it's Gemini first, and it's going to be the default. Bixby's not going away right now, but I mean, it wouldn't take a rocket scientist.
On the wall.
I think the writing's on the wall. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. I think that Bixby's days are probably numbered, and obviously Gemini.
A dedicated button. So on your Pixel, how do you launch Gemini? I'm still the corner swipe person.
I go into the application on my dock, and then I do it that way. I don't have any activation method that I really use. I probably should. I should use the corner swipe, but I haven't actually set that up yet. Still.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, the corner swipe and the long press on the gesture home pill is with circle to search. That's sometimes confusing when you're in a rush, because I still sometimes activate circle to search when I expect Gemini, but that's neither here nor there. And I'm not a fan of the power button way to activate it. So I kind of think a dedicated button makes sense if in this Gemini AI assistant future. I think that probably does make sense.
I wonder if we do get a button, and we're definitely kind of thinking way out into the future here. If you have a dedicated button, you could set up gestures with that button, like if it's capacitive, or if it's like double tap does Gemini Live, or like a single tap brings up the Gemini. But like, I think there's opportunities there, I think, that make sense. But at the same time, I can completely understand the complaints that people don't want another button. And the Bixby button has proven that people would reprogram it for other things. Like if it's a button that we can use, like an action button, then I can kind of understand it. And I know that with my backup iPhone 16 Pro Max that I only use like when I'm traveling and stuff. I don't even know if it's charged right now, but that's nor here nor there. I set up the action button to launch Gemini anyway, because I use Gemini quite regularly for my conversation stuff. So maybe there is something there, but if you can just use it for multiple things, it might work. But I don't know. How long is a piece of string? We could talk about this all day if a button makes sense or not, but I'd like to see it. I would like to see it.
It's actually interesting how you launch, you use a Gemini app mostly, because a lot of these other features that are coming, they're activated by the overlay, because it uses some context of your current screen. So the overlay is getting a redesign. It was shown off at the event, but interestingly, Google never actually announced it, this new design. It's pretty widely rolling out to people in the Google app beta. I've seen a handful of reports of not stable users seeing it. So I'm pretty clear this is the final design that Google's going with. It's much shorter, it's simpler, all that. So from there, when you activate it, and when you add, either you take a new picture, you upload an existing one from your gallery, you're in the PDF and you ask about PDF, or you add a YouTube video, you can talk to Live about it, to Gemini Live, actually. And it just basically adds media to your conversation. So if you take a picture, you can ask, have a conversation about Gemini Live with it. That appears to be the big thing that Google is pushing. The main addition today. It's rolling out to the S24, S25, and Pixel 9 series right now. Not too many reports. I haven't seen any reports about people having it yet. But yeah, talking to Gemini Live beyond not general knowledge, that's an expansion, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah,
and I kind of, I don't know how I'm kind of in two minds, because I use circle to search a lot. Like, as ridiculous as this sounds, we had a bird flying over our garden a few days ago. I took a picture of the bird it was quite a terrible photo, to be honest, because obviously they're hard to capture when moving. Use circle to search to ask what type of bird it was, and all the kind of extras that come with that. I think that would be kind of cool if you could just kind of send a clip, or if I want to be able to test this, because there's certain times where I think one of the biggest ones is, and I'm bad for this, is when I go shopping, I will sometimes take a picture of something and then I'll use Circle to Search to find out what it is to see if I get the best price. But if I could just do that from, say, when I'm browsing and using Gemini to do that and almost do that shopping kind of thing would be kind of cool. I'm not sure if I would start a conversation about an image, but I think having a text chat type situation, I think works for me best, unless I'm wearing earbuds. And even then, I still, as much as I do use Gemini Live, and I used it 3 times already today, I don't know how often I would use it. I don't know. How do you feel about it? Would you use it for screen context? Is that the most that you would do? I'm not really sure.
I think screen context is probably the main thing. Again, like adding real world images, so like the YouTube thing, there's already YouTube already has the ask feature inside the YouTube app. You can already have a regular text conversation about videos, about images, about files. So that's already existing, but the new dimension is you're able to talk to it, real-time conversation. So that might be novel. I think there's a bit of more of a barrier to it compared to what Astra will bring, which we got an update on. Project Astra would let you share your screen or take live video capture and have a Gemini Live conversation with it. Officially, that's set for the coming months. It is on the S25 and on the Pixel, just Pixel. That's what we know right now. And so that's coming soon. That's another update. At this point, I kind of think it's here before in the first 6 months of the year, the first half of the year, based on other previous teasing. I think that's a bit more imminent. I don't think this is... I greatly hope that this is within the first 6 months of the year, and I think that's more likely than not, versus the second half of the year kind of thing. So I think that's going to be exciting. To your point, I think screen sharing will probably be a bit more popular than live images because it's holding your phone up, that kind of thing. I think that's pointing at the real world. I think that's going to be a bit... We have to see how this works in practice, but I think screen sharing might be quite popular use case of Gemini Live, especially if you can keep actively scrolling and asking new questions.
Yeah, I think to go back to the PDF example, I think sometimes when you download a PDF and you basically want, you want a high-level explanation of it, or like, can you find the section of this PDF where it helps me, the manual for this brand new VCR that I bought. I mean, you've not bought a brand new VCR, but that kind of thing is where I think it'd be kind of useful. Or taking a picture of I still think taking a picture of something and getting technical. I can see the technical element is going to be useful because I'll try and get my parents to use it more often when it starts rolling out more widely. And I do wonder what's going to happen with regard to that crossover with Astra, because I don't know why I keep thinking of that example that I think we've spoken about on the podcast before about having, say, for instance, opening your fridge door and you've not gone to the supermarket or the grocery store or whatever it is, and you just take it either a clip or you talk to Astra and say, what can I make with whatever's in here? Yeah. Like even those kind of things I can understand the value in that. I think that's kind of useful. Would I use it that often? I'm not sure. I'm excited to see, though, when it does come to fruition, how well it works. But this feels like a step in the right direction. Being able to get context for Gemini.
We're getting there. Again, you're just able to add images now and then video in the future. We're getting there. It's the roadmap. So the way you activate this is, again, to the Gemini overlay. This is rolling out now. The S24, S25, Pixel 9. It's coming to other Pixel phones after that, and I assume even more Android phones. So yeah, that's Gemini. The other thing, that's really the main Gemini stuff in the context of the S25 series. So some interesting thing happened. So these features were announced the S25 on stage. Google executives announced it. Then right in the day, the Google Store did something pretty interesting. There's right now on the Google Store, there's a banner telling effectively Pixel 9 owners and potential buyers about all these new Gemini and circle to search features coming to their phone. And it goes to the dance that Google now has to do since the Pixel team and the Android team is now one division. We kind of saw this at the Pixel 9 event last year, in which the first portion of it was about Gemini, about software, and they showed Samsung phones, they showed Motorola phones to demo all these features before the Pixel 9 stuff was announced. To me, that was an interesting moment in terms of this is more than the Pixel event now. But on the flip side, Samsung stuff on Wednesday, it was just talking about Samsung, about S25, obviously, that makes sense. But all the Pixel stuff came afterwards. The confirmation that it's coming to Pixel came in blog posts, came in on the Google Store. So that's an interesting dance that Google now has to manage.
It seems weird, but I guess last year probably gave us the precursor that this was going to happen in future because of the way that the S24 was almost like the flag bearer for a lot of new functionality, like that circle to search and stuff.
Circle search, yeah.
And yeah, I get it. I can from a market positioning and an Android gaining Gemini features, you have to have the biggest player on board, and Samsung is by far and away the biggest player. Like they probably will sell more S25 units in the first 2 weeks of the device being available than Google will sell in Pixels. It's just this year.
Yeah.
Like it's just the way that it works. And so, like you say, it does feel a bit like scrambling to say, yeah, we will get these features on our flagship device as well. But at the same time, the merger between Pixel and Android team is probably shorter in its lifespan than the work between Android team and Samsung. So it's always going to feel like a bit of not backup, because that's not the way to describe it, like a bit of an afterthought. But it is good. I'm glad Google's come out and clarified it, because it could have just stayed radio silent and not said anything. And then that does happen quite a bit with certain things, doesn't it? So I'm happy that we've had clarification. I'm not necessarily as happy that the S25 is going to get them first, but as I say, biggest player in the game, the Android space has to. They're the vehicle, aren't they? They are the real vehicle for Gemini, whether we like it or not. Samsung pushes Gemini forward.
Like Google is absolutely in a position to say our Pixel devices are also going to get at the same time. It's probably from Samsung's point of view, the market share wise, they don't really care if Pixel also gets it at the same time. So there's that. But yeah, it's these two companies are so closely aligned at this point. So this is only going to increase. But yeah,
I think that's a good thing, though. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing, though. Just cards on the table. I think it is a great thing, because at least you know that I'm sure like
people
a lot of
have
people who are
Samsung
potentially
devices.
listening. Yeah, you have Samsung devices, you have Pixel devices. You may maybe like us, where you prefer the Pixel experience in terms of software. But I love a lot of the Samsung hardware, and I've used lots of Samsung devices over the years, and I like the fact that when I make that switch from Pixel to Samsung for a review unit or whatever it happens to be, I'm not losing out on certain functionality. I think that's the beauty of Android, period. So yeah, I'm not like I don't think either of us are being critical here. I just think it's a reality of the way the market's played out, and Samsung is the market leader. There's just you cannot get away from that. And whether or not Pixel's making inroads in specific markets, it's just great to know that you buy a Pixel in a few weeks' time and you get them cheaper. There's that added benefit. You're going to get these features that the Samsung phone is selling as core tenets of their brand new device. So yeah, I think there's a little bit that Google's kind of like, yeah, we have control of the whole stack. We can put this on our phones. Samsung, yeah, you can have a little bit of a lead, but we'll catch you up. Well, they don't need to catch them up. They're giving them the keys to the castle, but they say, yeah, we have a master key. So yeah, I think it's
basically.
I think it's a win-win for everyone, isn't it? I think you don't need to be kind of a fanboy about it. You can be happy that everyone's getting a benefit, and I think there's a lot of Samsung owners I know out there who are going to benefit from this. So that's great to see, and long may that continue in some respects.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the Gemini stuff, and then there's some Circle to Search updates. So we saw a Circle to Search is also getting a redesign. I think you have it too now. It's basically simpler. It's beta users have it. I'm not sure if stable people have it yet, but it's basically a redesigned panel. Everything is all in one panel. It's simpler. When you activate it, it slides up, and when you dismiss it, slides down as one thing. That's just UI. The colors are different too, a bit more vibrant. But the new feature here is it will recognize email addresses, phone numbers, and URLs. So you have one tap to call, one tap to email, and one tap to open in Chrome. It just saves you a single tap. That's nice. How do you use? I want to ask you a question that's kind of sideways to this. How often do you use Circle to Search? Because I probably use it for selecting text and searching for things a ridiculous amount of time. Yeah. And I at first when it was announced, I was like, I'm never going to use that. I use it all the damn time. No, the text OCR. To me, what it has replaced. I used to go to the recents menu, recents multitasking, and activate the select shortcut there, and Circle to Search has replaced that fully, completely. I guess it's more accurate. I've also used Google Lens less now as a result, but I think Circle to Search is a winner. It makes sense. It's a useful tool. It's Google now on tap a few years later, done better, done right. And yeah, for me, it's mainly copying text, honestly. I don't really search that. No, I search. I use it to properly search stuff. Mostly text though versus images. But yeah, it's a useful utility. It's a utility that Android probably should have had from the beginning.
Yeah, no, very, very pleased with that. I think it's I think even the redesign, it's all these just little incremental changes. I'm really kind of like, I prefer the UI elements of AI as opposed to the AI itself, but I think that at least the UI is getting cohesive. And with regard to the smaller pop-up for Gemini and the new like design of it, I think again it makes everything feel transparent, if that makes sense. Like that you're using the AI stuff as opposed to I'm going to use Lens, which looks completely different to Circle to Search, which looks completely different to the way Gemini popped up.
I have a tiny discussion about the future of all this stuff. So assuming smart assistants are active all the time in the future, it's the idea of like you can ask your question without the hot word or without you long pressing on something all the time. So this, to me, I was just thinking about with all the live update stuff, it got me thinking, and the dynamic island on the iPhone, I'm wondering like what the future of an always active assistant looks like. Is it like a permanent glow? Is it an icon status bar all the time? That to me is really interesting, and what I kind of hope the live updates would be, and the a true dynamic island competitor. So yeah, I kind of wonder what that looks like in the future, especially as like it's a persistent notification. I don't know, maybe chat heads. That's where chat heads will come back.
Maybe, I don't know.
Always have a Gemini chat head.
Do you think chat heads had its time? I feel like chat heads are never going to take off, apart from maybe a small group of people.
Messaging, yeah. I see some people. I see some screenshots of people having chat heads, but no, I do agree in that regard. I think chat heads need an update if we're going to do it properly. A modernization. The design really hasn't changed in however long. But I think chat heads might be an interesting solution, or I don't know, a dedicated space, a new bar of sorts in the UI somewhere. I was thinking of WebOS actually, and how they did notifications at the bottom, and you could slide up. The main UI shrunk as you got these cards at the bottom. I know, I think we're due for a revisit about how the mobile OS works in the context of persistent assistance in the future.
Yeah, persistent assistant. Really, I mean, this is all throughout. It all comes back to what our main kind of topics of discussion most weeks is. This has whet the appetite for the upcoming Android 16 beta releases. So,
which we'll talk more about next week.
We will talk more about that next week when we get hands on with it. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where we're getting a taste of where Android is going. If Samsung's leading the way, Google is then going to iterate
AI
on
at
that.
The core. Yep.
Yeah, AI at its core, and this is probably the first phone to do so because you can do the prompts, like I say, the multi-instructional prompts. I'm guessing is that the correct term?
Multi-extension prompts, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like maybe we're getting there, and this is probably what Google Assistant was supposed to be so long ago. But
yep.
2025 is going to be more AI. Probably bored stiff if you're not an AI person, and I can completely kind of see why you would be. And it feels sometimes it's been shoehorned in, but to be fair to Samsung, some of the demos that they showed are pretty useful. I'm still not convinced by things like AI image generation and all that kind of stuff, but
yeah,
it's a bit of the groundwork that they laid with the S24, and it's just, I mean, I don't want to say more of the same, but it kind of is, isn't it? We started with Circle to Search, and now we're at the point where Gemini's a more core part of Samsung's ecosystem, as it were.
Yeah,
and One UI. So yeah, they're coming to S24, S25. I'm not sure. I don't want to give an exact date for when the devices are shipping, but I think it's
February,
in the next few weeks.
Yeah, February. So on that note, that was the Samsung event, but Samsung had a little teaser at the end, didn't they? With their rip-off Vision, Paul Bettany voice thing. There was such a weird way. Okay, keynote ended, the main presenter got off stage, and then this voice came back to tease the S25 Edge. That's a real throwback. Okay, so S25 Edge, thin smartphone, probably a reaction to the iPhone, rumored iPhone, Slim or whatever, Air rather. That's probably a good name, actually. What do you think about this? Do you think people want a slim smart? Do you want a slim smart?
I don't care. I literally do not care. I think for years, the mobile industry's tried to throw this, we need thin products, we need thin products, we need thin products. And for a while, it was fine. And then now we're at a point whereby most people complain about the battery the most. So I just think, give me something that, as long as it doesn't resemble a brick, that's fine. Throw it full of battery. Make sure we've got lots of space in there to power the phone for multiple days. I think that's where we need to go. Unless Samsung has some incredible battery tech up their sleeve to make something that's going to last multiple days without much effort, I'm not convinced. I think as well it's going to split up the lineup. Like the S25 will have S25, S25 Plus, S25 Ultra, S25 Edge. Later on in the year, S25 FE probably. Do we need 5 S25s in a year? I'm going to say no.
I never got the Plus phone. Maybe it's the one carrier cell because it's bigger but not as expensive. So what Apple's rumored to be doing is they're replacing their Plus with this Air, and I think that makes sense. I think, in general, I don't get Plus phones. I never got any of the Plus iPhones either. But to just play devil's advocate, I think it is cool. There is a coolness factor to something super thin, as long as it doesn't compromise battery life. I think we feel that with foldables when they're open. It feels thin and nice. But to just put it in a regular smartphone, I think it's nice to see. It's nice to marvel at. But the demand, the questions about durability, the questions about battery life, that's a big hurdle for this specific form factor to get over. And I don't know, personally, I know most people are fine with the Pixel 9 thickness. I think it could be a hair thinner. I know I'm in the minority there. But I don't know, a caseless Pixel 9 feels pretty good right now.
I mean, you raise quite a good point there. People are going to put this edge in a case anyway, so then it mitigates any of the thinness benefits. I'm not really sure what the aim and objective of this is.
To play devil's advocate again, I have the 13 mini, iPhone 13 mini. Mm-hmm. I like small phones. Mm-hmm. I'm probably getting the Air because whatever this next one is, because it's like the small one, because it's not my main phone. I don't need it to like be super whatever. I just want something nice to pick up. And I do wonder if there is a market for people who want something nice. Like, you can't put this in a case, obviously. I don't put my phones in cases in general, but that's neither here nor there. But I don't know, do people out in the world see you with a super thin phone? Does that raise any eyebrows?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think what they probably should have done was I agree with you about the Plus series. I think it would make more sense in this middle child of the device lineup. My biggest question is, looking at the images that are available on site now, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Does it have? I can't specifically tell. Does it have 2 cameras or 3 cameras? Because
it's 2 cameras.
If it's 2 cameras and it's technically a downgrade over the options that you have with the regular S25 and the S25 Plus, and they price it at, because the S25 starts at $799, you're getting a really small 6.2 inch phone anyway. Who is this for? What is this just a proof of concept? Is this a bit of like Samsung flexing the muscles a little bit? I mean, then you've mentioned the Fold series and the foldable phones. Like, is this admission from Samsung that people don't necessarily want foldable phones? They just want thinner, smaller Samsung phones. This is a confusing product. If I'm being honest, I don't think they'll do more than a few of them. I think if they do 3 Edge series devices like this, super thin, I'd be surprised. I just cannot see the market for it.
They're going to do what the Apple did. They're going to replace the price. I feel like that's pretty. I feel like follow the usual follow pattern. But yeah, that's an interesting point about the camera. Let me caveat. The only reason this rumored iPhone only has 1 camera, and the only reason I'm getting that is because I don't take pictures with my iPhone. I just don't.
You're going to use your Pixel, obviously, right? So why would you use the iPhone when the Pixel takes better stills?
And on that note, there's a telephoto, and I'm not going without a telephoto ever again. I love it on my Pro, and the compromise is that a 2-camera lens. I just think people's expectations. It's a cheaper, a slim phone that looks cool but isn't a flagship. I think that's the key there in terms of getting people to accept the compromises or setting the expectations. I think not having the full camera is justifiable if it's not your flagship. So I think that's the line that these companies balance, and again, we'll see what the price costs.
It needs to be priced competitively. I mean, I would not be surprised if Samsung demos this or shows a bit more about this at MWC in a couple of maybe 6 weeks' time. It reminds me of the playbook for the original Fold, and they kind of teased it during the S10 launch. No devices were available. It was just on video. And then at MWC, they had one behind glass. And then you could, at IFA later on in the year, I got the opportunity to test it for the first time. Yeah, I get the impression that this is probably the playbook that Samsung is going to go with this Edge device. So announce it, drum up some hype, see what happens. And then maybe later on in the year, they'll release it. I mean, hopefully it comes before the Pixel series comes out, the next Pixel series devices come out, because it'd be interesting to see where it fits in terms of like pricing and if it disrupts the base Pixel 10 and maybe even the Pixel 9a. But it remains to be seen at this point in time. I think
Honestly, to me,
my biggest
it's
gripe
like,
with Samsung is this confusing way that they've released things.
Yeah. Honestly, like if you want to try how it feels like, you open a Flip 6. I kind of feel like, yeah, just open the Flip 6, right? I don't know. I am, of all the phones, I do want to feel this in my hand. Maybe I don't want to use it, and maybe I'll be terrified when I put it in my pocket. But I don't know. Again, like this is the devil's advocate. This is what has interested me out of all the phones that were announced, on Wednesday. I'll make a sojourn to Best Buy to try it, but that's probably the extent of my relationship with this, with this upcoming phone. But yeah, that's, again, odd teaser, odd phone. We'll see how it does. Yeah.
And then obviously the only final thing that I think is notable about this is they teased that XR headset at the end, and
the
glasses.
XR headset, the glasses, and the trifold, which trifolds, that's going to be expensive.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see where they go with this. I think we're in a confusing period of time now where we have such a mature platform.
I don't know. Trifold is entering the category of, for how much money I'm paying, it better run the desktop OS. I bet to be able to do something with it.
I mean, you can do that with Dex. I think Dex is very robust now.
Dex.
Yeah, I think it's a very robust.
But I don't use Chrome OS. Option. But that's the future of that is neither here nor there.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's a trifold. To Samsung's credit, they do make hardware, and it is something to talk about every single year. And 2025 seems like a busy year for that.
Definitely. And I think that kind of sums up S25 launch and the whole. I mean, you're probably bored of the AI thing by now. Like I said, it was AI heavy, hardware similarly heavy in some respects, with obviously teasers for things coming in future. I'm not a huge fan of teasers in general. I mean, in tech, I want to see the real thing because you can't always take this on face value. But yeah, that's. I think I'm now that's out of the way. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Google does, integrating their own versions of what Samsung's shown us and what Samsung says they're capable of. Because obviously, we're pixel people here, and be sure to let us know what you think of the S25 series. Is it something that's going to make you think, oh, I'm going to switch over from either an older Pixel if you're an older Pixel user, or even if you're a Pixel 9 series user and you're thinking the S25 looks like it could be the one for me? I am cautiously optimistic again for what happens with the S25 series. I think it'll help push Gemini to more people out there. Maybe we'll see some more Gemini stuff as well come off the back of it because more people are using specific features and it evolves, whatever. But yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Just want to say thank you for joining me again this week, Avner. We have a busy week coming up with some more releases. We will be talking Android 16 next week. So yeah, big on Gemini, big on Galaxy. Next week, big on Android 16, hopefully. Yeah. Thank you again for everyone for listening. This has been episode 838 of Pixelated. And another thanks again to Yabba, the sponsor of this week's podcast. Go down in the show notes below to learn how to enter that competition to win a Pixel 9 or even a T2 projector.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.